It's deadline day eve, and all the talk is around a possible Kevin Durant mega deal. We already have two actual trades to tell you about, including the Milwaukee Bucks loading up to make a run in the East. Plus, Luka speaks for the first time since being traded to Los Angeles. Will Luka's petty power be enough to fuel a Lakers playoff run? That's all today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are free. We are available wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your trades every day, as we approach less than 24 hours, no, a little over 24 hours before the NBA trade deadline. Today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories with the help of Locked On's local experts. I typically wear a button-down or some kind of nicer shirt for these shows for the YouTube audience. Today I'm wearing a hoodie because I'm ready to get sweaty. I'm on Shams watch. And no two other people would I rather do this with than Locked On's premier national NBA experts from the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior NBA writer for the Action Network, Matt Moore, and from the Locked On Bulls podcast, we've got Hayes. Matt, Hayes, the trade deadline is tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, and all the gravity seems to be pulling teams towards Phoenix and Kevin Durant. This morning on ESPN, Brian Windhorst reported on a possible KD Jimmy Butler triangle forming that could end up a 3 or more team deal. We went from windy fingers to windy triangles now. I don't know what that's about. Matt, why is Phoenix all of a sudden considering pulling the ripcord on their very, very expensive core?
All right, so I've heard that Durant was a little reluctant about going back to Golden State, didn't want to really do it. That's been floated before and kind of shot down before. There is a lot of pressure on the Suns to get the Bradley Beal swap out for Jimmy Butler happening. And the impression I've been giving is that if the Suns cannot pull off a way to get Jimmy Butler for Bradley Beal, then Kevin Durant is willing to go somewhere new. That's like the new kind of change. I don't think this is like Durant being like, I want out, but it's more of like, hey, look, this isn't working. We need to figure something out here. What the basic deal is: Wiggins to Miami, Jimmy to Phoenix, KD to the Warriors. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense for any of the three teams. I guess it makes sense for the Warriors. Like, you'd upgrade over Wiggins with KD, but with Miami, the money comes off the books the time that they want with Wiggins, so that makes sense. I just don't know if you're Phoenix, are you like, okay, it's fine. We got Devin Booker and Jimmy Butler and Bradley Beal. We're fine. No, you are not fine. So I don't know how this is going to go. The other thing is I wonder if the Kevin Durant thing is happening, if the Suns are using the Warriors to start the bidding process to get teams involved and see what else they can get back, or see if they can figure out a way out of this mess. It's going to be fascinating to see how this works out, Hayes.
This is like that meme of the dog that's sitting in the kitchen when the house is on fire. It's like, it's all fine. It's all fine. This is all fine. Because the Suns are desperately scratching for some type of something to give them life here, and it's crazy to watch. Like, the way they're scrambling to get out to figure out how to make maneuvers in this second tax apron is something everybody's going to watch, because what they do here could start setting kind of not necessarily a blueprint every team will follow, but like it will be a cautionary tale to how dangerous it is to get in the second tax apron if you really don't believe in your team being a championship caliber team. Now, if KD ends up to the Warriors, weirder things have happened, if that's what it takes to get done. But I tell you what, it's a lot different of the thought of adding Jimmy Butler to Devin Booker and Kevin Durant than it being Devin Booker, Jimmy Butler, and Bradley Beal. And that's a crap show that I'd be really interested to watch, and maybe a ratings boost for the NBA as well, because I see that turning ugly real quick.
Well, so part of the reason why we're here, right, is because Bradley Beal has been intransigent about not waiving that no trade clause. He doesn't want to leave Phoenix. And I don't know if this has anything to do with it. I'm purely speculating here. But I kind of like the idea of the Phoenix Suns saying, okay, Bradley, if you don't want to leave, we're going to turn this into the Washington Wizards. We brought you from the Washington Wizards. We will take you right back there.
I love that idea. And you know what would be a great way to do that? Adding Kyle Kuzma.
Whoa! We haven't even got to the Kuzma deal yet.
I've been on the conspiracy trail. We'll talk about that deal in a second. But, man, I've been on the conspiracy trail this morning with that kind of idea. I don't know where the Suns are going, man. I really don't know how this ends up. But I am very curious to know, like, what team is going to be like, wait, KD's available, and just do something outrageous to try and get in here and try and thread the needle. That, to me, is a huge question.
Well, one of the teams that has been floated is a team that has already made an enormous trade, the Dallas Mavericks. This was Sam Amick of The Athletic. Quote, league sources say the Dallas Mavericks have dreams of adding Durant to their Davis, Kyrie Irving-led group. Here's the reaction from Locked On Mavericks today.
The Mavs window is now. The Mavs shortened their window by doing the asinine trade and by sending Luka Doncic and getting Anthony Davis. Their window is now. They have a team that I think is going to be good. I don't know that it's a title contending team because of their offense right now, but it's a team that's going to be really good. Their defense is going to be good. When everyone's back, this is a team that's going to be really good. And they've got two all-star starter caliber players in Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving, and sometimes that's what you need. And they've got good role players, PJ Washington, Gafford, Lively, Najee, Max Christie, Dinwiddie. Like they've got the pieces there. They just need that other scorer to make that offense go. You might as well. Like, this is the window, right? This is the window right now.
Not to throw cold water on Nick Angstad's dream, but Jake Fisher of the Stein Line saying the Mavericks do not appear realistically to be in position to make another significant move before this deadline in the offseason. Let's see. For now, they need time to integrate Davis and find out what that Davis-Lively pairing is going to look like. So, Hayes, should the Mavs be in or out on a Kevin Durant acquisition at this trade deadline, or maybe just overall?
Before I get into that, I just want to point out that I think Nico Harrison has our boy Nick captured. I think he was off camera because Nick just looks like he's trying his best to try to find, we're good. We're gonna be good. Like, Nick's whole excitement has gotten killed. I love Nick. But I mean, yeah, they should be in. I think anybody should be in on if there's a potential to land Kevin Durant. If you can land Kevin Durant and add him to your core, you get Kevin Durant and add him to your core. It just seems a little weird. I mean, I guess Nico Harrison is trying to look for anything to kind of bring it all together and try to win back this fan base or something. But a move for Kevin Durant for them doesn't seem like something that I think is a possibility at this trade deadline. But then again, I didn't think trading Luka would be, so maybe it does happen.
Anthony Davis, Nike guy. Nico Harrison, Nike guy. Kyrie Irving, Nike guy, formerly, now Anta. Kevin Durant, Nike guy. When KD and Kyrie split up in Brooklyn, there was immediate talk about Kyrie leaving in free agency and joining Phoenix. That was like an immediate thing that kind of blipped out there. It worked out so well that Kyrie committed to the Mavs. But now you have an opportunity for them to play together again when those two guys clearly like each other. I do like how KD's run out of teams to go to, so now he's just revisiting past locations. Do I want to go back to 2017 with the Warriors, or do I want to go back to 2021 with the Nets? Like, he's just revisiting his old haunts. Meanwhile, if we're talking about old haunts, Doug, I must ask. I know he wouldn't. I understand he doesn't want to go live there. He is in a different place in his life. But God, imagine the story if KD went back to the Thunder.
It would be an incredible story. And again, I don't think we can count anything out at this point, including a reunion with the Golden State Warriors. We've talked a little bit about that. I want to hear from Locked On Warriors, Chuck Walter, with his opinion on that kind of move.
Rumor was brought up every single year towards the trade deadline. Kevin Durant to the Warriors. This time it feels a little different. We both saw this last night against the Orlando Magic. What they're missing is when a defense decides to throw three people at Steph, and he's on the left wing or whatever, and he's got to flip it over his shoulder to Gary Payton. You now have the opportunity to flip it over your shoulder to potentially Kevin Durant. That changes the game, and it changes the way that Steph Curry plays, because so many people have said, well, Steph's losing a step, this and that. Look, he is. He's getting older. You can see it real time. But at the same time, he's never had this little help around him, right? So the way to free him up, the way to free up a shooter and get him clean looks, which Steph Curry can still bang threes. Bang! It's what he does. And we want more double bangs. And the way to get that is to bring in Kevin Durant.
Okay, so I want to throw one more team in here. We've thrown a lot of teams around, but we have some reporting from The Athletic as well on the Houston Rockets. League sources say the Houston Rockets, whose longtime interest in the Suns' Devin Booker is likely to be revisited before the deadline, are known to be contemplating a pursuit of Durant as well. That would go against everything that we've heard out of the Houston Rockets organization. Final question for this segment. Which of the locations that we've discussed so far, in some kind of realistic return deal, which of these teams could Kevin Durant immediately take into like championship contention? Let's take OKC because they're kind of already there. But of the teams that we've discussed, like where is he most likely to say, all right, that's an immediate finals contender?
Man, I think all of them. I think all of it. Look, KD's still so good. He's still so good. And you're fitting him into teams that are all really, really, really good. Houston, they don't have a closer. You saw that last night in that horrendous collapse versus the Nets. The Warriors, they need one more piece, another star to take the pressure off of Steph and kind of augment things as well as a defender. Like, even at this age, KD is still so good. I think any of these teams, he vaults back into contention. I really do. I think that he still is that impactful. Even if he is not a guy that lifts all boats, these teams have those guys. What they need is a Kevin Durant, which is why they're trying to be in the Kevin Durant business.
Yeah, Houston for me. I think all these teams, but if you put Kevin Durant on that Houston Rockets team, maybe it's just me and my love of that team overall. Ime Udoka as the coach, I think that they immediately become a finals contender if you don't already view them as one. I love the idea of him on that team with all those young players and those wings that they have down there and the defensive system they can have, and Kevin Durant, they can really benefit off what Kevin Durant does well. Kevin Durant on the Houston Rockets, sign me up. Take my money.
All right, let us know what you think on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnNBA. One segment down, 2 to go, and Sham Charania has not blown up our show yet. We will see what we will see. Yeah, I'm checking right now. I've been checking all through the show. Refresh. Coming up on Locked On NBA, we'll tell you about 2 trades that have already happened, including the Milwaukee Bucks adding to their talent list. Although I think Matt is going to continue to get conspiratorial about that maneuver. And Luka speaks to the press for the first time since going to Los Angeles. We'll hear from Locked On Lakers as well. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Game Time. Looking for tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or going to a game. Finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it has never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so that you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I've been using Game Time Picks for a while now, and here's why I love it. The curated deals make it super simple to find great tickets at a great price. No more sifting through thousands of options. I don't have time for that. This is what makes it great. I recently grabbed a super deal for a prime seat, and I couldn't believe the value. It was a steal. The seat view feature is a game changer. Before I even hit buy, I get to see exactly what my seat is going to look like in the venue. It's very reassuring. I mean, you're spending a lot of money on these tickets, and you want to make sure that the view is good. And the best part, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they're going to refund 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Got a couple of trades to talk about, to grade with Matt Moore and Hayes, and we'll go to the most recent one. Milwaukee and the Wizards making a trade. Going to Milwaukee is Kyle Kuzma, Patrick Baldwin, and second-round compensation. In exchange, Washington acquires Khris Middleton, AJ Johnson, the 2024 first-round pick for the Milwaukee Bucks. They acquired that, and a pick swap as well. Matt, that feels like a lot for Kyle Kuzma, no?
Yeah, it's a lot. I have conspiracy stuff to get to, and the reason I have conspiracy stuff to get to is largely because of how much that I don't like this trade for the Bucks, because it just like makes me sad. Like Khris Middleton is like a franchise icon. His they're gonna retire his jersey. Think about the guys that have been retired by that Bucks organization, and like Khris Middleton's gonna hang up there. That's how great and how important he's been for them, and he's been such a great person for the organization for a decade or more. Look, Kuzma's probably better than the numbers indicate. He's been in the Wizards. It's clear that he hasn't been given top effort. It's clear that there's probably better stuff for him to give, and he may snap back and be really good in this. But like, even AJ Johnson, pretty good. Like, that's a pretty good asset. They gave up some pick equity, and they let go of a franchise star for a guy that, to me, doesn't really move the needle. I just don't really get what this does for you on a basketball floor. But you know what it does do, Doug, is it does get them below the second apron so they can aggregate other players in trades.
Oh, boy. Like what? Which other players? Okay.
Sometimes I come on here and I'm like, hey, heard this thing, and like sources indicate blah, blah, blah. This is just speculation. This is me completely tinfoil hatting here, Hayes. Kyle Kuzma is from Flint, Michigan. 45 minutes from Birmingham, Michigan, where Matt Ishbia grew up. Where I haven't done the number on how far he is from Lansing, where, of course, Isaiah Thomas, known collaborator for Matt Ishbia, went to college. On top of it, if you look at the numbers, if you do Brook Lopez, Kyle Kuzma, and one other expiring, and you send that to Phoenix, Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, and Kyle Kuzma, it matches Kevin Durant and Yusuf Nurkic. Look, everything I've heard about the Bucks has been...
Hold on. No, I literally have to get my tinfoil hat on now. That is insane. Hayes, that is insane.
That's crazy. Thank you for the tinfoil hat. That's Matt Moore with an expert example of tinfoil hat. If that all comes to fruition, nobody can question Matt Moore ever again in life. You just gotta leave it up and just let Matt Moore cook. If that goes down and the Milwaukee Bucks are actually making this move to set up something that they're going to do later on before the trade deadline, great. I mean, if the Milwaukee Bucks can walk away with a trade like that, it's going to definitely help them in their push to come out the Eastern Conference and hopefully keep Giannis happy as well. It's clear that this team needs some type of shot in the arm or something if they really want to try to be a contender to come out this East. But that there, man, that's you cook there, Matt. You cook there. Now, I'm more, as far as Kyle Kuzma, I guess I'm more up on this move than Matt is. Like, yeah, Khris Middleton has meant a lot to that franchise over the years he's been there. But I think Kyle Kuzma's the better player right now. I think that he's younger. They also get the contracts much less. Even if Khris Middleton were to pick up his contract next year, it's less than what Kyle Kuzma is going to be making. So this is a move that sets up the Bucks, I think, to be better this year, but also have more flexibility now that they are under that second tax apron and can now do a little bit more.
I think I'm going to keep this hat on, both because I think it could start a trend. I could be trend setting here, but also because I'm afraid of what Matt is going to drop on this show as we continue on. We do have another trade. This is a smaller deal, but yesterday the Philadelphia 76ers traded wing Caleb Martin to the Dallas Mavericks for Quentin Grimes and a 2025 second-round pick. It's actually Philadelphia's second that they are getting back. And then I'll also throw in Keith Pompey reporting, host of Locked On 76ers, reporting that KJ Martin is on his way to the Pistons along with 2 second-round picks, and I don't know that they're really going to get much of anything back for that. Joel Embiid returned to the 76ers and notched a triple-double. Despite that, Wes Goldberg of Locked On NBA Game Night thought he didn't look like the same Embiid. What do we make of all of these trades, where they are, their position as they approach the deadline, Hayes? Can Grimes help them?
Yeah, Grimes definitely helps him. I think that there's a little bit to a degree of this of the Spider-Man meme. Like they're pointing at each other. They're almost the same person, like almost the same height, weight. The stats are almost the exact same. But I think that what the 76ers getting this is the younger player. He's only 24 years old versus, if I'm not mistaken, Caleb Martin's 29. Maybe he's 30 already. So you get a younger player. And I think like Quentin Grimes is a fine player. He's going to come in there. He's going to help them win some basketball games. I like how he fits as a role player on this team. And they get younger, which they should probably be looking to do anyway, with Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain being kind of the next wave on that team. But that's a story for another day. But I like this move overall for both teams. I don't think anybody got worse in this trade at all.
Money. This is entirely about money. These Sixers shaved a huge amount off of their tax bill. Like, that's what this move is about. Quentin Grimes, I have heard, wants north of the MLE, or at least the MLE. Like, the price on MLE on Quentin Grimes this summer starts at the MLE. And so the Mavs were not going to be able to pay him, given everything else that they had devoted money to. Now it's funny because I was like, well, yeah, because you got Luka and Kyrie, and you don't need Grimes on a big contract, and that's no longer true. But I will be interested to see if the Sixers actually keep Grimes, or they re-swap him in a sign and trade as a restricted free agent, or if they try and suppress his value. One thing I'll tell you don't want, if you're a restricted free agent, you do not want to be on a team that is GM by Daryl Morey. We'll see if Daryl's still around this summer, but that does not typically work out well. Sixers saved some money, but to me, that's all this move was about, was clearing space. The Mavs getting rid of a contract they weren't going to keep long-term, and the Sixers continuing to kind of get their finances down.
Dwayne Rankin of the Arizona Central tweeting out, Phoenix Suns just had their morning shoot-around. Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Yusuf Nurkic are here. Suns at Thunder tonight. Wee. All right, coming up on the Locked On NBA podcast, we're going to shift gears slightly to talk about Luka Doncic. He got a chance to talk to the media yesterday, had some interesting words about his departure from Dallas. We'll hear from Locked On Lakers as well. Plus, if we have time, I want to talk about Julius Randle. Got an injury update on him that happened just before we started taping. How will it affect how the Minnesota Timberwolves approach this trade deadline? That's all coming up. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by BetterHelp. What are some of your relationship green flags? We often hear about the red flags that we should avoid, but what if we focused more on identifying the positive signs in our relationship, those green flags? If you're not sure what they look like, therapy can help you identify them, actively practice them, and even embody that green flag energy yourself. Whether you're dating, married, building a friendship, or just working on yourself, therapy can help you form relationships that love you back. Therapy helps you develop healthy boundaries and improves your communication skills. It empowers you to set clear expectations and express your needs in relationships. Therapy provides tools for managing conflict in ways that strengthen your connections rather than break them down. BetterHelp makes it easy by offering online therapy with over 30,000 licensed therapists to choose from, and if you need to switch therapists, you can do so at no extra cost. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA your first listen. Maybe it's your first watch on YouTube every day. Make sure to subscribe, like the videos, tell a friend about what we're doing here on Locked On NBA. We got our first chance to hear from Luka Doncic since the shocking trade that sent him away from the only team he's ever known, well, the only NBA team he's ever known. We go now to Locked On Lakers for how Luka is dealing with all of this.
Pissed. Like the stuff that was said about him on the way out of Dallas, he did acknowledge it hurt, but it made him mad.
The hope for Laker fans inside the Lakers organization is that this motivates Luka, and you get the equivalent of the woman who has a bad breakup and reacts with her revenge body, and that Luka he's going to emerge this season and moving forward svelte, showing a little leg, wearing something a little low cut, and reminding everyone, I look fine. You could have had this, as I go destroy the Dallas Mavericks, who have now landed on the list that the famously competitive and petty Luka Doncic has been keeping that includes everyone from, I guess now, Nico Harrison to someone like Chris Dunn. Like apparently everyone's on this list.
All right, a revenge body Luka, a mad king Luka that joins King James in LA, however you want to frame it. Can a motivated Luka Doncic lead Los Angeles to more than just a first-round series win in the playoffs? Matt Moore.
Kaminsky put some imagery in my head that's going to take some time for me to get cleansed. I'm going to need to do some meditation after the show. Look, this was my entire thing. There is an observational bias here where Luka wouldn't get in shape. Luka wouldn't commit to conditioning. Luka wouldn't communicate with teammates. Luka wasn't available. Luka didn't play in enough games. Luka's effort on defense was bad. Guess what? All that changes because you called him out and traded him for it. Like, now he's going to do all of those things that he wouldn't do for you for the Lakers. And you just look dumber because they're like, see, he could do it. This is who he always was. When it's like, no, like, he did have these problems in Dallas, but you managed them so terribly that now the Lakers benefit from it while making you look stupid. Like, Hayes, the ways I started making a list for a Substack about all the dumb things about this trade from Dallas's perspective, I'm at 23. I don't know how long I'm going to get here. It's insane how bad this is going to continue to look through the years.
I feel like we need a Chris Jericho drop. You just made the list for those people, for my people who watch wrestling. But I mean, Luka should use this as motivation. Like sometimes when you're faced with how people feel about you, you got to look at yourself and say, all right, bet. And I'll even though it is some scary imagery that the Kaminsky brothers painted there, I want to think about Luka showing leg, but I mean, I hope that he comes out and comes out with the fierceness that he just wants to prove all his doubters wrong. And, you know, Luka's been in a place where people love Luka, right? And there's been doubt about what type of players and if Luka can play with other stars and things like that. Now Luka gets to go to a city that if he wins there, they're gonna do everything that they can to try to make sure that they chase stars and get other stars around them in a way that maybe Dallas was not able to do. So I think Luka can definitely benefit from this. And if you're on Luka's list, watch out.
More fresh news this morning. This time it's not a trade, but an injury. The Wolves announced that Julius Randle has a right adductor strain and will be reevaluated in 2 weeks. Here's Ben Beacon of Locked On Wolves on the likelihood of Minnesota dealing Randle at the deadline before he knew about this news.
The Julius Randle fit's been clunky, as many, including myself, thought it might be way back in late September when we first discussed it after the trade. But, of course, recently, right before the groin injury, Julius Randle was playing better, and in the 2 games since his injury, the Wolves have struggled. Now, the overall lineup data would suggest, and we'll talk about this in a moment, Rudy Gobert plays much better with Naz Reid than he does with Julius Randle. Not surprising. So there's an argument to be made that, like, hey, this may actually make them better this year. Counterpoint, rocking the boat for a team that, like, I know they're not having a great season, but they're still, 4 games above 500, in position to get out of the play-in in the West. They're starting to play better, the last 2 bad losses notwithstanding. Things have been trending in the upward direction. So that's the counterpoint, which is where I think the Wolves will land. I think they'll say, you know what, let's not rock the boat for the second time in 5 months or whatever it's been. Let's just stand pat. Let's see what we can do this year.
Okay, Hayes, what are your thoughts? Does this injury news affect the Wolves' openness or ability to move Randle? And if it doesn't, should they stand pat, see what they have, or is it time to make a move now?
It doesn't change my opinion. I think they still do need to make a move now. I mean, not like they're frantic. They could still wait till the offseason, but if something is there now that can make them better, I think they do it. Now, does that affect Julius Randle in the trade market? I mean, yeah, it's going to cause a little bit of caution. I think, you know, it's natural for a player that's going to miss some time and be reevaluated in a little while for that to maybe cause a little bit of hesitation for teams that could be interested in that type of move. But I'll tell you this, he's not the only player they should be looking to move. So if they're able to make something else and even keep him, I can see that working as well. But I still think that the Wolves need to make a move at this trade deadline where I currently stand right now.
Tim Connolly's always really patient with trades. That's why the Rudy Gobert thing is really funny and honestly probably wasn't him and was more Mark Lowry. Like, Conley is always like, let's be really sure of what we want to do before we do a deal. And he's always kind of the mindset like we got to wait and see what this looks like with more time. And the first year of Cat and Gobert, everyone's killing him over that. Everybody was like, what a disaster of a trade, worst trade in NBA history. And then they had the number 3 seed with the 1 seed for most of the year, made the conference finals. Now, I still think they need to move Randle. I think they should do it now. I think they should move Randle and Jaden McDaniels immediately, reshape this roster around Anthony Edwards, get that guy back to where he feels great about the organization. But I think it's unlikely that they're going to do a deal.
More likely trade scenario: New Orleans able to deal Zion, or Wolves dealing Randle.
I'll say New Orleans. I just think that New Orleans at some point has to be like, we got to get the salaries down here. You know, they got money committed to Trey Murphy. They got money committed to Herb Jones. They're looking to move Ingram. They're running out of time on that. And I just think there's kind of an acknowledgement. We've been talking about all year about like what they're going to do with Zion. I think they're just an acknowledgement that this build is over and they're going to need to move on. So I'll say New Orleans versus Randle, I think is a little bit more complicated. I think honestly, even with the injury stuff, there's probably more interest in Zion than there would be in Julius Randle, despite Julius being a 2-time All-NBA player.
Ace?
I mean,
it's strange that New Orleans hasn't made a move yet, right? I mean, we've been talking about Ingram, we've been talking about Zion.
Like, what are these teams doing? I get it. I get the CBA is tough, but like, Hayes, New Orleans, Portland, Minnesota, nothing. Nothing.
It's so weird that it's so quiet for them, right? Because like those are teams that you all expected coming into the season that would be making the most moves. Like that was the most expected thing. Like the fact that Portland is over here not doing anything. The Pelicans have about 4 players that we thought they would be moved by now. Like it should be a lot more activity by those teams, specifically Portland. Portland surprised me right now. You keep winning. You need to be trading players. Everybody needs to be on the block.
All right, final thing, and this is from Tom Habistro via Basketball Reference on Twitter. He's at Tom Habistro. Based on his shooting percentages and volume, Kyle Kuzma has added a total of negative 446 points to his team over his career. And it really makes you wonder why the Bucks decided to make a move for him. Really makes you wonder. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On NBA. We are going to be back tomorrow to cover this NBA trade deadline. We're going live, right, fellas? We're gonna be there trying to guide everyone through what is sure to be a very exciting deadline. So make sure to turn your notifications on YouTube to know exactly when we go live. Thanks for making us your first listen and first watch every day. Enjoy tonight's action. Be kind to each other. We're going to see you right back here live tomorrow for the trade deadline on Locked On NBA.